Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of ZEFE Today's Opening Bell, or how we call it in Romania, ZEFE Deschiderea De Astăzi. Today we're discussing with DIVO PULITIKA. He's a fund manager for InterCapital Asset Management in Croatia. DIVO, hi.
Hi, hello.
Thank you very much for taking your time. DIVO, how are you? How's the summer looking so far?
Very good, very hot so far here in Zagreb. Yeah, thank you very much for having me here today. Yeah, I hope I will be able to give you some interesting info about how we see Romania at this point. The summer is hot, as I told you. The stock exchanges are hot as well. Probably know how good the prices are going both in Romania and elsewhere. So yeah, looking forward to tackle on your questions.
The stock exchanges are hot, and we are on all-time high. Although we had some weaker first quarter results, but before that, let's see, how do you see the valuation so far?
Yeah, so valuations wise, Romania at this point stands pretty similar to the rest of the region, I would say. Looking at the price earnings ratio, Romania is now between 10 and 11, depending how we normalize the results, which is pretty much at the level of Croatia, for example, but still somewhat higher than what we were used to see from Romania, let's say a year or two ago. What we had in the meantime, we had obviously stock price growing this year after the presidential elections. And as you mentioned, we had a slight reduction in the profits of the companies. So all this resulted in the price to earnings ratio going slightly up. In terms of the dividend yield, something that Romania is most popular by, I would say, in Europe and abroad, it's still very high at about 5% at this point, which is really one of the best dividend yields you can get globally at the moment.
5% as the average for bet companies?
Yes, I'm looking at the level of the bet index. So if you buy a bet ETF, for example, that's how much dividends it gets annually. It takes into account the different weights of companies in the index.
We have this situation here, and we can't quite put the finger on, and maybe you can explain to us why do we reach all-time high on basically daily level, even if the financial results were weaker in the first quarter, and we still have this political uncertainty regarding the forming of a new government and fiscal adjustment, of course.
Yeah, well, that's a couple of questions in one, so I'm sorry if I cannot be very brief on it. But basically, we should take into account what's been going on outside of Romania as well. So Romania is not an island that's separated from everything else. International investors see it as one of the options to invest globally, or at least within Europe, right? So we can say that the problems for the Romanian equity market, if we can call it like that, started about a year ago. In the beginning, it was very mild. It was the elections for the EU Parliament, right? So if we compare, for example, the returns of the markets within the last year, so the last 365 days, we see that the region still outperforms Romania significantly. So Romania, the bet total return index, including dividends, this is all in euros to have like a single currency. Romania is up by 8% on an annual level. We have countries like Slovenia up almost 55%, Poland 23%, Greece 35%, Austria 26%, and Germany even 30%. The only one that's been performing similarly to Romania or slightly less is the US, which with the new president and everything is not a popular investment place at the moment. So if we look at it from this perspective, we see that Romania obviously wasn't taking part in the significant growth that happened in Europe in the last year and is now catching up. If we look at the beginning of this year, so since the beginning of the year up until the 18th of May. So before we got the results, the final results of the new presidential elections, Romania was flattish, 0% growth, and all the growth that happened basically happened afterwards, so about 14% in terms of Europe. Since this happened in a relatively short period, only a couple of weeks, it seems like a huge growth. But then again, if we take into account the growth within the region, Romania is still catching up. Another point on this is obviously we never really look at the price growth in itself and then say if something is cheap or expensive. We look at multiples. So I already mentioned Romania in terms of price earnings between 10 and 11 at this point. We have countries like Poland at 12, and we have Croatia slightly above. The entire emerging universe is at about 15, MSCI Europe 16, Germany 18, and so on. So within the region, the only markets that are similar to Romania at this point, that would be Slovenia and Greece, for example. Greece is at 9 times earnings. In terms of dividends, this is what really attracts a lot of investors. Romania, well, we have Hungary at 5% as well, and Slovenia, but everything else pretty much is below Romania. So Poland 4%, Europe in general is about 2.5%, and so on. So looking at it from this perspective, Romania looks interesting. Now, you did say that there is uncertainty related to both the political situation and then also related to this, the fiscal policy, right? And that is true. This is the biggest unknown in Romania for all the investors. And we are all looking to see what is going to happen here. However, compared to the expectations that were there a couple of months ago when we were somewhat worried, I would say, about the results, whether we would get pro-European government or not, I think that now it's pretty visible that the new government that is going to be formed will be pro-EU, will continue to take part in EU integrations, benefit from EU money ultimately as well. So I would say there is a much bigger chance now that Romania actually manages to put its fiscal gap under control. But as you said, definitely the biggest unknown.
DIVO, for instance, in the past couple of weeks, we've had all sorts of information via sources in the media regarding higher dividend tax for the company, for the investors, this pressure on the budget because of the higher deficit in the first few months. Do you think that all these negative aspects, let's say, for instance, are already priced in? Because the stock market kept rising while you were impacted by this negative information.
Yeah, I would say that taxation is definitely something everyone is keeping an eye on. The dividend tax itself, probably not the biggest issue, because it's already, we know how much it rose, right, from 8 to 10%. We know how to calculate it within our models and so on. The bigger issues are other taxes that might yet be imposed. So obviously, with the budget gap being as big as it is, there will need to be something. There are obviously some fiscal measures that would worry investors more. For example, even a couple of years ago in Romania, if you remember, we had a situation where the government was trying to heavily tax both banks and also energy companies, oil and gas companies. So if they decide to go this direction, really hurting a specific part of the market, this could be seen as bad because it would impact those companies a lot. On the other hand, there's, I believe, still a lot of room in Romania to collect uncollected taxes in a way. There's a lot of gray market. I remember in Croatia, we were in a similar position a couple of years ago, and the government underwent the fiscalization process. It looked similarly to what Romania is trying to achieve. So first starting with big companies, then the medium companies, and then everyone. And the total impact in Croatia was estimated, the increase in budget revenues was estimated between 30 and 40%. So something like this could really help the budget a lot. In any case, I will not pretend to be an expert on the intricacies of Romanian politics and the power plays that happen there. But definitely what I would like to see as an investor is a dialogue between the policymakers and the representatives of companies and other interest groups. I think that everyone is aware that there needs to be a compromise. Companies are aware of this as well. They obviously want to do business in a country that's stable, that has the deficit under control, and so on. And from what I gather, from what I've been talking to them, they're all willing to speak with the government. So I hope this will be it.
You basically answered one of my questions regarding how does the biggest independent Croatian asset manager sees this situation. InterCapital has some couple of ETFs listed on the stock market. What are the plans here? Do you intend to list more? How are they viewed by the Croatian investors, by the Romanian investors, and of course the other European investors?
Yeah. So maybe just do a slight clarification. Up until recently, we used to be the biggest independent asset manager in Croatia. We sold our active fund business. So now we only kept the ETFs and are really focusing on this fully. We believe this is the future of investments for our region as well, at least. So yeah, we have 5 ETFs at the moment, all of them listed in Croatia, a part of them listed in Romania. The only reason that they are not listed in Romania for the moment is because we didn't have the time to list them so far. So we have opened the processes of listing more. So the plan is basically to have Romania as one of our key markets, with pretty much all of our ETFs available there as well. At the moment, as I said, we are focused on the region, Croatia, Slovenia, Romania in terms of equity indices, but we are also working quite a lot, I would say, to introduce more ETFs. We would like the stock exchanges both in Zagreb and Bucharest, and even one day to go to, let's say, Germany. We want the investors to be able to invest into pretty much all the regional countries through those stock exchanges. And then following with the next steps, maybe some general ETFs, a single ETF covering the entire region. I think this would be popular, especially among global and foreign investors.
What's the asset under management now for InterCapital?
In the ETFs, it's about 130 million
euros.
Yes, in the ETFs.
Okay.
And we have, in terms of yeah.
Please.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we have about 3,000 individual investors. So this is our size for the moment.
In terms of daily transactions here at Bucharest Stock Exchange, because you know that this is a big issue here. We've seen something interesting in the last couple of days with Banca Transilvania, the biggest bank in Romania, being heavily traded, and at one point it even had like 5 to 6 times more transactions compared to the second position. Why do you think that the shares, the equities in Banca Transilvania are so sought after?
Well, I don't have the definite response because I don't know who the buyers are, but in general, if we speak about, take into account that Banca Transilvania is the most liquid Romanian stock, is also probably the single stock that best represents the country, because the banks are usually heavily involved in the general economy, right? So if you're, for example, a foreign investor that wants exposure to Romania, Banca Transilvania would probably be your first pick, and the easiest one to buy because of its liquidity. So this might be a part of the solution to why it's been this heavily traded. As we talked about earlier, the last year, Romania was not that popular among investors. So taking into account that all of their other positions grew, Romania probably lost the weight that the investors wanted to keep in the country. So maybe they're now doing like a catch-up to keep the weight of Romania in their portfolio where they want it to be. This could also be one of the reasons. And also, lastly, what I'm personally very happy to see, why I'm personally very happy to see more trading in Banca Transilvania, because it's very close now to touching the liquidity required for MSCI criteria, MSCI emerging market. Two other companies are already there, so Hydroelectrica and Petrom. Romgaz is also very close. So if Banca Transilvania goes above this, I mean, they lack so little at the moment. So their percentage of free float that's traded annualized is about 14%. They need 15. This could open up the possibility to include Romania into the MSCI emerging market. If this happens, then there will be even more passive flow from abroad coming to Romania, because there are emerging market ETFs that track MSCI globally. So this would be a very good thing, we think, from my point as an investor in Romania.
3 growth factors for the companies listed at the Bucharest Stock Exchange, and 3 questionable factors that they might put you on hold for a moment, uncertainty factors, let's say.
If you look at the market as a whole, so not company by company, I'll just quote the 3 biggest factors I see as such. Well, let's start with the negative ones, maybe, so we can end in a positive tone. Definitely, number 1 is what happens fiscally, whether the government manages to put this under control, and even more importantly, whether they manage to make the ratings agencies believe they are doing good work. You know that Romania, that the rating agencies have already warned that unless Romania puts their budget under control, it might lose the investment grade rating, meaning they will go into the junk rating, right? Which would be very hurtful, especially for Romanian bonds, but also for equity investors. So definitely from that point of view, that you want to be an investment grade country. Obviously, also somewhat related to all of this is the taxation. As I already mentioned, I hope that there will be a discussion between all the parties, and that whatever the government decides to impose really has a good impact on the economy as a whole. Thirdly, or secondly, maybe, as a problematic factor, I would say, is the situation Ukraine and Russia. Within our region, I see that investors are maybe not that worried, but whenever we talk to, let's say, investors from Western Europe or the US, they still see Romania as a country that's too close to the conflict to be like calm about that. So this is also irrespective of whatever happens there. On a more long-term basis, there's also, obviously, Romania, as the rest of our region, has an issue with the declining population. So the fewer people you have, obviously, the smaller your economy usually is. So this is also something that I hope Romania will be able to tackle on the longer period. To move on to the positives, what we usually talk about when we talk about Romania and present our ETFs and the possibilities to invest in it, we highlight the energy sector, the Romanian energy sector. You probably know this even better than I do, but the Neptune Deep project and even the further projects that could be developed within the Black Sea could really position some of the Romanian companies in a very good spot. Especially talking here about the companies that are directly exposed to this, such as Petrom and Romgaz, but also there's the entire line of companies that would benefit, such as Transgaz and others who would take part in this. This would not only help individual companies, but also help Romania with its energy safety, make it an energy exporter, which would be a very good thing, obviously, for the economy as a whole. So as an outsider who is invested on the Bucharest Stock Exchange, I really await with impatience to see how the Neptune Deep project will function in the future. What we also see as very good in Romania is some of the sectors that have been developing there, especially such as IT. You know that the BET index as itself has 20 companies. Right now, about 7 or 8 of those companies are what we sometimes refer to as entrepreneurial companies. So companies that grew from the beginning, from a entrepreneurial idea and so on. So I believe Romania has a lot of potential there to actually benefit from this. And thirdly, this is not only Romania, but our region as a whole, with the shift of global politics and regionalization, I would say. So I believe our entire region will benefit from production coming closer to Europe, from making further investments into both infrastructure, safety networks, and so on. So I believe the entire region, Romania as one of its biggest players, will get lots of international investments into this kind of infrastructure in the coming years.
Divo, you've mentioned Transgaz, and I have to ask you because the Transgaz has 50%. The shares went up 50% so far this year after some spectacular financial results. How do you see the company, and how do you see this utilities sector at the Bucharest Stock Exchange? Transgaz, Transelectrica, and Electrica.
Well, these three are quite different, I would say, and the things that make them work. Transgaz, I already mentioned, there should be a big boost once the Neptune Deep project kicks in. And also with the latest results, we've seen like just how good the company can be even without it. So there's no surprise that the stock reacted as it did. Now, what I would like to highlight here is the fact that Transgaz, Transelectrica, and a number of similar companies are in a position that is sometimes also hurt when there's new taxation, so to say. Keep in mind that we've seen the Q1 results, and overall they were negative. I would say there was a decline compared to the previous year. However, the results themselves were not a surprise because most of these companies already warned us about this. When they have their annual assemblies, they do like a projection of how the results will look in the next year. And a number of them quoted new taxations and actually worries about uncertainties about future taxation there. So I'm hoping that this does not prove a problem for the utility companies. Transgaz, you know probably that in the last years they had huge investments. They were connecting Romania to other neighboring countries and so on. Companies like Transelectrica, what I see, at least the way I see it, we are getting to a time when the company will need investments again to modernize the network and so on. So we will see once this kicks in how this can be done and at which prices. So currently myself, I would say I have a better outlook, a better view maybe on companies such as Transgas. I see more visible potential there, I would say.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Divo, for taking your time and for sharing with us your insight regarding the Bucharest Stock Exchange. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure having DIVO PULITIKA from InterCapital ETF here on our show. And I will switch to Romanian for the closing remarks. Până data viitoare, fii întins la investiții câștigătoare. Numai bine!
Știu ce spun.
Ucraina a lovit în inima Rusiei și a distrus 41 de avioane strategice.
Acest atac cu siguranță demonstrează Rusiei că nu este atât de invincibilă.
Știu ce te interesează. Nicușor Dan se întâlnește partidele politice pentru formarea unui nou guvern.
Cine o să le tragă la răspundere, Mihaela?
La fiecare greșeală vor fi sancționați.
Știu cum să te fac curios.
Ce faci atunci când ești una dintre cele mai atrăgătoare femei din lume? Vin și apa din cada în care te speli.
Poate să trimită, dacă o menține și caldă, la bucureșteni, că s-ar putea să o aprecieze.
Știu cum să te emoționezi.
Rusia a oferit o încetare a focului, dar doar pentru a colecta trupurile militarilor uciși. Mi se făcea pielea de găină și mă durea sufletul în momentul în care vedeam niște bărbați adevărați care erau desfigurați la propriu.
Știu să convin.
Nicușor Dan a început deplasările externe. Prima destinație, Lituania.
5 ani la primărie n-a scos un cuvânt.
Mai există o variantă, Hofi. Aia cu tace și face.
Știu să câștig.
Să te lingi pe bot.
Știu, deci știi.